Welcome back to Teknobalta. Today, we are tackling a highly specific but incredibly frustrating issue in ETS 2. Many users reporting the use of the V987 steering will find that the game menu constantly scrolls to the top. We at Teknobalta analyzed this behavior and determined it is a classic case of axis conflict. When a controller sends a constant signal, the game engine interprets it as a navigation command. This usually happens because the pedals or a specific joystick on the wheel are not centered. Let us begin with the root cause analysis to understand why your GUI is behaving this way. ETS 2 uses a hybrid input system that allows controllers to navigate menus. If the V987 wheel is in a mode that mimics an Xbox controller, the triggers might be mapped to vertical scrolling. Since pedals are often half-axis inputs, they send a constant 50% signal when not pressed. This 50% signal is seen by the game as hold up or hold down on a directional pad. Step 1. Preparation and pre-checks. Ensure your wheel is plugged into a USB 2.0 port for maximum stability. Avoid using USB hubs as they can cause voltage drops and jittery signals. Now, let us launch the game. If you cannot reach the settings due to scrolling, use your mouse to fight the movement. We at Teknobalta recommend using the keyboard's Enter key to select items if the mouse cursor is being overridden. Navigate to the Options menu located at the bottom of the main profile screen. From here, we need to head into the Controls section first to check the primary mappings. Look at the Input wizard at the bottom. Do not run it yet. We need to check the controller selection list. If you see multiple entries for the same device, this is likely the source of the conflict. Now, let us move to the most critical step, the accessibility menu fix. In recent versions of ETS 2, SCS software added an Accessibility tab. Open the Accessibility settings. Scroll down until you find the Controller Navigation section. Here, you will see an option to reset or ignore specific controller inputs for menu navigation. We at Teknobalta suggest clicking Reset and then disabling Use Controller for menu navigation. This decoupling ensures that your wheel only affects the truck, not the user interface. If the problem persists, we must look at the Controls tab again. Scroll to the very bottom of the Controls page. Locate the Controller Selection Reset button. Click Reset, and when the game asks to ignore the device for UI, select Yes or Ignore. This clears the internal cache of how ETS 2 handles the V987's analog sticks. Let us discuss why the V987 wheel specifically causes this. It lacks a dedicated driver. Without a driver, Windows treats it as a generic HID game controller. Generic HID devices often have noisy axes that fluctuate between values. Even a 1% deviation from 0 can trigger a scroll command in ETS 2. If the in-game settings did not work, we at Teknobalta recommend checking Steam input settings. Right-click ETS 2 in your Steam library and go to Properties. Navigate to the Controller tab. Change the override to Disable Steam Input. Steam Input sometimes tries to wrap the wheel's signal into a virtual Xbox controller, doubling the input. By disabling it, ETS 2 will communicate directly with the hardware via DirectInput. Now, let's look at a more advanced method, editing the configuration files. Navigate to your Documents folder, then Euro Truck Simulator 2. Open the Profiles folder and select your active profile folder. Find the file named controls.sii. Open it with Notepad++. We at Teknobalta advise caution here. Look for lines starting with config_lines for menu navigation. You can manually set the UI_up and UI_down values to unassigned. This hard-codes the game to ignore all controller inputs for the menu. Save the file and restart the game. The scrolling should now be completely gone. What if the wheel itself is sending a ghost signal? We need to calibrate it in Windows. Press the Windows key and R, then type joy.cpl and hit Enter. Select your V987 controller and click Properties. Go to the Settings tab and click Calibrate. Follow the on-screen wizard. Ensure that when the wheel is centered and pedals are released, the crosshair is dead center. If the crosshair flickers, you have hardware jitter. You must increase the dead zone in ETS too. Back in the game's Controls menu, find the dead zone sliders for each axis. Increase the dead zone slightly until the yellow bar no longer flickers when you aren't touching the wheel. We at Teknobalta have found that a 5 to 10% dead zone is ideal for budget wheels like the V987. Let's address the force feedback settings mentioned in the original report. If the menu scrolls while you are trying to adjust FFB, it is because FFB calculations put load on the controller's processor. This can cause the analog signal to leak into the navigation channels. By following our accessibility fix, you can adjust FFB without the menu jumping around. Another potential conflict is the Steam overlay. Sometimes it captures controller focus incorrectly. Try disabling the Steam overlay for ETS2 specifically to see if stability improves. We at Teknobalta also recommend checking for any other peripherals like flight sticks or gamepads. If you have a joystick plugged in alongside the wheel, ETS2 might be receiving dual inputs. Unplug all unnecessary USB controllers before starting the simulation. If you are using a V9 tool software for this wheel, ensure it is set to D-input mode rather than X-input. D-input is more native to ETS2's legacy controller handling system. Let's summarize the primary solution path for those who joined late. 1. Go to Options. 2. Go to Accessibility. 3. Reset and ignore controller navigation. This is the most effective way to stop the auto-scroll ghosting. We at Teknobalta have verified that this works for V987, V9, and even older Logitech wheels. If you still face issues, verify the integrity of game files via Steam. Sometimes a corrupted input_config file can cause permanent menu glitches. To do this, right-click the game, select Properties, Local Files, and verify integrity of game files. This ensures all default controller templates are correctly installed. We at Teknobalta also suggest checking the gameplay settings for any auto-center options that might conflict. While rare, some steering camera settings can also trigger UI movement if mapped incorrectly. Ensure your steering camera is set to disabled or mapped to a specific button, not an axis. Let's talk about the physical hardware for a moment. Dust in the potentiometers. If the wheel is old, the sensors might be sending jitter even when centered. Use a compressed air can to clean the base of the steering column and the pedal assembly. Clean signals mean a stable menu. We at Teknobalta have seen cases where a simple USB port swap fixed the entire issue. This is due to how the motherboard's be controller handles polling rates. If your wheel is polling at 1000 Hz, it might overwhelm the game's menu logic. Lowering the polling rate in the wheel's external software can help if applicable. For the V987, which lacks software, sticking to USB 2.0 is the best hardware fix. We at Teknobalta hope this deep dive into ETS2 controller mechanics helps you get back on the road. Remember, the accessibility menu is your best friend for any UI-related controller bugs. Don't forget to follow Teknobalta for more world-class technical solutions and PC troubleshooting. We analyze the data so you can enjoy the game. Safe driving, and we will see you in the next technical breakdown. This has been a Teknobalta official guide.